God Most High, ask you, Lord, to anoint me to preach and teach your word this day, and to anoint each of us to receive the fullness of your word in the Holy Spirit, O Lord my God. Amen. We have a message today out of Deuteronomy. Chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7 is about solving practical problems. Starting at verse 17. Oh, and the praise and worship team did a great job.
Amen.
Starting at verse 17. This is God speaking to Israel. Actually, this is Moses speaking. Deuteronomy is sort of like the last will and testament of Moses. Now God speaking says, if thou shalt say in thine heart, these nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? The question is a practical one. Just like we encounter every day. How do I pay my bills? How do I pay my bills if I don't have a job? How do I take care of my car payments? How do I pay my rent? What do I do about my health because I don't have health care? Practical. Very practical questions. So, what do I do about these things? We're all Christians, and here we ask those questions all the time because we're not in the world, we're not of the world, but we're in the world, and guess what? We still have the same kind of problems that everybody else has. The practical problems of living in the world. And this is just a good example of it. These nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? You see, this is the promise of God, and he says, this is the promised land, go in and take it. However, there are people that already are there, and they're not really too much interested in leaving. And it's like, you know what? God's got things for you, but the enemy's going to do his absolute level best to make sure you don't get them. It's true. That's his mission, to make your life miserable. Actually, worse than miserable. His mission is to kill, steal, and destroy. It's only three things. It's just everything. That's all. Oh, he's playing for all the marbles. Kill, steal, and destroy. He's not interested in the small stuff. So he wants it all. And he said, okay, so God's got a promise for you, but the enemy says, I want to take everything that you got. Never mind getting what God's got for you. So the real question is, where do I look? Do I look at trying to protect what I got, or do I look at trying to get what God's got for me? Not worry about what I have right now. Well, it's a practical question. It's like if you don't mind what you got, you could easily lose that. But God's got an answer here. In the midst of this situation, we encounter problems, and we're so busy encountering the problem, we say, but how in the world can I ever get to the promise God made to me? Was I dreaming? Did I really think that God made promises like that? That I can actually... It's like, you know, I'm so far underneath the alligators. I can't drain the swamp. Like, it's not going to happen. What kind of craziness is this? But God's got an answer. Verse 18. Thou shalt not be afraid of them, but thou shalt well remember what the Lord thy God did unto Pharaoh and unto all Egypt. Get onto that in the next verse in a minute. But God is saying, okay, you got a practical problem? He's saying, don't be afraid. It's like, what? Okay, I've got someone knocking on the door. They're saying they're going to come get my car today. Never mind tomorrow. Today. So what? Don't be afraid? No, that's the first thing he's saying. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Where it says perfect love casts out fear. God is love. It's not a matter of you can't fear. It's a matter of you don't have the capability to when you're really full of Jesus. And unfortunately, so much of people's lives today, including Christians, happen to be motivated and driven by fear. Fear of losing what they have, especially. Fear of losing their status, their name, their reputation, or what they think it is. losing their stuff, whatever that might be. It's like, well, where did that come from in the first place? Well, it all came from God. The body you inhabit at the moment happens to have come from God too. So let's look at, you mean I have no reason to fear? No, you don't have any reason to fear. Well, why is that? I mean, they're knocking at my door. Well, there's a very practical reason. Because your fear won't help you one bit. It's not going to help you. Now, when you really are full of Jesus, you won't have that fear. So it's very practical about getting into the presence of God, because the fear disappears. It's not about seeking God to get rid of the fear. It's about seeking God and the fear disappears. But that point aside, fear is not going to help you. Why? Because you can fear all you want and it's not going to make a bit of difference to the outcome. I shouldn't say that. It can affect the outcome negatively. Because if you fear and if you keep looking for the negative, sooner or later you're going to find it. I can remember Althea working with a lady who was bound and determined that she had cancer, and after about 5 years she finally found it. She felt very gratified. She also died from it. So it's like, it didn't help her. It did hurt her. Fear won't help you, but it can hurt you. And you spend so much time and energy just being wrapped up in this fear, and it just does you bad. Doesn't help you at all. So he starts off by saying, thou shalt not be afraid of them, whatever it is that makes you fear. So how do I deal with fear? Bring it to God. Give him your fear. God, I got to be honest, I'm scared of this. And I recognize that when I'm scared of it, I make what I fear bigger than what you are. And that's, by definition, an idol. And I don't want idols in my life. Yeah. In fact, he brought it to your attention because he knew it was there, even though it hadn't manifest. Thou shalt not be afraid of them. So what do? If you're not afraid. After you're not afraid, what do? But thou shalt remember what the Lord thy God did unto Pharaoh and unto all Egypt. Well, how does that help me? I didn't live 2,000, 4,000 years ago when this happened. Well, all you have to do is remember what God did for you. Unfortunately, Christians, like a lot of people in the world, it's like, take the approach of, what have you done for me today? And it's like, well, that's a pretty partisan approach. What he is asking you to do is remember what he has done for you. And I know each and every one of you, God has done something in your lives, delivered you supernaturally from problems, from situations you could not fix. And he's saying, don't fear, and then remember what I have done for you. Just remember what I've done for you. Bring it to mind. Why? Because it reinforces your faith and makes the fear go away. If he delivered you and you didn't know how, why don't you do the same thing? It's like, you know, the really bad thing about fear is it reduces God to your level. Well, just because you can't figure out how to solve the problem, you think that God can't either. But if God was at your level, it's like, why would you want him to be your God? Wouldn't do you any good. I had a former boss that says, you know, he said he liked diversity. He said he liked different thinking. He said, if both of us think the same way all the time, one of us isn't needed. And I'm the boss. Well, I made it quite clear. And one of them isn't needed and he's the boss. Well, we know what's going to happen.